This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome everyone. Today is 11th of May, and my name is Pache. I'll be the host for the Batch Working Group biweekly sync. We have two topics: Aldo with Job API roadmap, and Miha with we'll talk about the backlog limit per index enhancement proposal. Aldo, do you want to share your screen?
Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we see your screen.
Excellent. So yeah, I wanted to just go through the list of features that we are working on for the Job API. I use the doc that Diana shared last week or the last meeting. And I added a few colors just to make it more comprehensible or easier to see at first glance. I think the intention is that we will add all the tracks here, all the work streams for the working group in this sheet. But I just added all the things we are doing for the Job API. So yeah, I just wanted to give a rundown of all this list with the intention of gathering feedback, bring awareness, and hopefully get some contributors for the topics that are open or not fully staffed. So is the size good enough? Actually, I think is this readable? What do you say?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, perfect. So first, I wanted to highlight the two features that are already in GA. One is scalable job tracking through finalizers. This was completed in 126, and we still going through some deprecation steps. And actually, we just completed. Kevin helped complete all the deprecation steps. So yeah, it's fully finished now in 128. The next item is mutable scaling directives when suspended. This was released as beta, so enabled by default on 123, and it was GA in 127, where we even added one more directive, the scaling gates, scaling readiness gates to they are mutable when the job is suspended and not started. So these are both completed. Let me go back actually to the previous one. This one was proposed some time ago. Don't remember the release. Basically, to add a field in the Job API denoting a queue name. We were hoping to get this accepted because it's somewhat similar to scheduler name in the pod spec, but ultimately there was not enough justification for it, so it was rejected. This is probably something that can be revisited if we ever upstream queue or some other queuing system into Kubernetes. But for now, stands as rejected. Okay, back to features in progress. First one is the tracking number of ready pods. So you might know that there was a field in the status that tracks the number of active pods, which includes pods that are not scheduled even. So it might not be enough signal for you to know if your job actually started. So we decided to add ready pods, which not just considers that the pods are scheduled, but also considers that they are ready. So they have a readiness ready condition, which is configurable based on some um, hooks. I'm missing the word here. There's some configuration you can do, like for example, a port is up, or even an HTTP request denoting that the pod is actually doing work. So this is in beta in 124. We haven't had any complaints about it, but I didn't have the chance to graduate it to GA. If there is anybody that wants to do the graduation, please reach out to me. Yeah, even in beta, we already completed the scalability requirements. So there's really not much to do besides collecting some data about scale and so on. The next point is pod failure policy, mostly led by Michał. The first release was in alpha in 125, and when in beta in 126. In 127, we still added some fixes and even extra features in kubelet. And I think in 128, we're still targeting some extra bug fixes, and there are some open questions related to some eviction conditions. So yeah, that's why I listed here this open question and bug fix. So that's what's planned for 128, but I think we are on track. And if everything goes well, we can target 120 GA in 129. The next one is Elastic Index Job. Basically, it just gives the ability to change the number of completions. We released it as, Daniel released it as beta in 127. And there is, yeah, I mean, we're still collecting feedback before graduating to GA, but I don't expect any major pushback. Still, it's a good practice to wait at least 2 releases before going GA. So that's still on track. The next one is a new feature, back-off limit per index. I'm gonna let Michał talk more about it later, but we're targeting alpha in 128, beta in 129. Let's see, the next item is being led by Kevin. So here the issue is that in certain scenarios, you might not want to, or let me go back. So today, whenever a pod fails, whenever a pod is terminating, meaning that it has a deletion timestamp, which can happen for many reasons, eviction API, or the kubelet, or scheduler preemption, multiple reasons. The point is that whenever the pod is marked as terminated, we immediately create a new pod. And that has been like the most desired behavior for services, but it's not necessarily good for jobs. Actually, I just heard a report today about the cases where you only want one pod to run, you have parallelism one, completions one, and because of this behavior, you still get extra pods. So while it might be considered a bug for some, the reality is that we need to make it backwards compatible. So Kevin proposed a new API, a new API field to control what happens with terminating pods, and also some status field that tells you how many pods are terminating, so you can account for them when you're calculating quotas or whatnot. So also targeting alpha in 128, so this release, and hopefully beta in 129. And again, for all these features that are in progress, that already have kept open, please go into the issues and the open pull requests. You can find it in there to provide any feedback. Yes, it's the more feedback we can have before the first release, the less painful it is to make changes later. So yes, please do that if you have feedback or additional use cases. That's also welcome. Okay, the next item, I think Kevin, are you in the call?
Yeah, I am.
I think you.
Yeah, the failing to start condition is it has some pushback. I think the challenge I think it's more in like a gathering feedback, because like generally the idea was figuring out if a pod is stuck due to configuration error, or if it is a business as usual type of change. We were thinking we can add maybe a condition to sort of make it easier to detect failures, because there are a lot of different ways that pods can be fail, especially for batch users. Unfortunately, well, as I created this cap, there was another, I was not aware of another condition called pod has network, which has been renamed to pod ready to start containers. And this covers a lot of the really bad cases that I've discovered. So I don't know what the best path forward for this cap, and I did try to ask Sergey on Signode like what his suggestion would be, because I don't think it's ready for implementation, because there's a lot of different conditions, and I probably could use some help from someone in Signode to kind of really get those discussions started, because I'll probably try to bring it up maybe next call on Signode to kind of see. I think there's no pushback in the sense they don't want it. I think it's just there's a lot of usefulness in this, and I'm not sure of all the pieces.
Okay, I'll leave it like this. And could you please add the related cap here? I think, yeah, so from my side, I think one of the biggest questions is what can we add to the existing cap, or what is this failing to start condition bringing that is not covered by the ready to start or yeah the existing cap.
Yeah.
So
and I think I need to update that one. Yeah, honestly, I bit a little bit more than I can chew on my first cap, so it's definitely a lot of pieces in this one that I'm not as aware of. So I will get back to filling some of that out and answering some of those questions. But yeah, the pod ready to start one I saw was also in a little bit of a stuck state. So I was trying to get that one, I think, to beta, because it is kind of confusing to have these two separate ones. And I'll get back to this cap and update some of the questions that you've had. and try and get some more questions answered.
Okay, yeah, for now, just please add the cap, or I'll find it after the meeting. But yes, I guess we need clarity on what's the difference, or if we need this cap at all, if the other already exists. Yeah. So, but also again, anybody on the call, if you have extra context, or if you can check the other cap, can you? What's the name of the other condition, Kevin?
Pod ready to start. Well, I know the feature toggle, pod ready to start containers. Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, if you have any feedback about what's in this feature that is not covered,
Yeah. I mean, generally that one is only about the sandbox creation, and then this one is all the pieces after that. So like images and all of that. Like I think it's sort of like a gate. Like I think the container sandbox needs to be created, and that's what that condition is really about. And then this one is more about like once it gets into the state of pending, how do you know it's going to never get out of pending or not? So that's the main difference, but I'll clear that up in the cap.
Okay, sounds good. A bit weird that a sandbox is created before the image is pulled, but okay. All right, so that's that for this line. The next line, so that the rest of the items don't have an open cap, but they might be useful for this SIG, and that's why I'm sharing. The first one is success policy. So here the use case is that sometimes a job could be considered complete if certain indexes finish successfully, like index 0, for example, or it could complete if any X percentage of pods complete. Yeah. So this is what the success policy means to express. Yuki said that he's willing to write a cap for this. But I don't think there is one open yet. So if you still have any comments, please go into the issue. The next one is by Kant. Kant is proposing a new object, a new API object, daemon job, to run once per pod, per node, sorry. Now, one question I have here, which I don't know if we have Kant here, but one question I have is whether this fits within working group batch or not, because a lot of the use cases listed in the proposal were related to maintenance, to software upgrades, log collection, etc. So it's not too much of the concern of this working group. But if you disagree, or if you have some use cases for daemon job that are like obviously batch related, HPC, AI, ML, etc., please share your point of view. I think personally, I'm inclined to remove this entry from here and just leave it to SIGApps to decide. Last I heard from Kant is that he wants to propose it as a project, but I don't think the proposal is open yet. The next one is only an open issue, it's not staffed. Stateful index job, basically similarly to stateful sets, index job might need to have one persistent volume per index. So that's something we could expand the index job to. But again, it's still looking for a contributor, looking for more feedback. The next one is kind of related to, oh no, sorry. This is deadline from pod startup. So let me just rename it like this. So currently the job API has the concept of active deadline, meaning that you have a deadline at which point the job no longer makes sense, or it can be declared as failed. This is particularly useful for cron jobs. If you're running your job every, let's say, every 24 hours, and one job takes more than 24 hours to even start, then it might no longer make sense. So that's the point of active deadline. But some users want active deadline to be counted from the time the pods actually start, from pod startup. So there is that request. I already provided some feedback. My point of view is that this might not be needed if we have active deadline in the pod itself, and we have some kind of backoff limits per pod. Yeah, there are a few alternatives that can be done at the pod level instead of at the job level. So currently this ticket is under SIG node. So again, we are looking for feedback here. The next one is one I opened, but I think Kant already volunteered to look at it. So what's the use case here? Let's say you have an MPI job. The MPI job is spread across a few topology domains, let's say a few racks or a few zones. And you might want to set up a click inside each rack so that most communications happen inside this topology, and only there are a few cross topology communications. So that's something that the MPI library already supports. But the pods in Kubernetes don't have access to the topology information. The topology information is part of the node spec, not the pod spec. So there are a few suggestions here. For example, like maybe we could copy the topology information from the node into the pod at the time of scheduling. Or maybe we just allow every label to be readable from the pod. So there are all these options. And again, we're looking for feedback, although Kant already volunteered to write a cap. And last one, I don't have all the context here. Kevin, maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, it was one of a call out in the job set proposal that if I think the idea is that we have as above there, you have the job ready kept, which tells you how many jobs are ready. But I think generally there's a need for it to be configurable to say, like, if 80% of my jobs are ready, can I consider my job ready to start? And this, I think, is for use in the job set. It was one of the suggestions made to upstream to Kubernetes, because job set uses jobs. And we don't really know what the concept of if a job is ready without like, we can have numbers, but we don't have any like condition or anything, or a configurable way to determine if a job is ready. So there's still, I don't think I've gotten any feedback on it yet. So if anyone is interested, please take a look at that issue. I just saw it in the proposal, so I want to put it in the Kubernetes repo for more visibility.
Okay, so that's all for all the features that are in flight. As you can see, there are a lot, and some of them are looking for feedback, some of them are looking for contributors. But yeah, we can continue discussing each of them in following meetings as needed. Also, we plan to have this document as a live document, so people that are interested in the domain can keep track of where features are, which stage. For now, docs seems to work. We might move it somewhere else, but I don't know, GitHub dashboards or something else. But for now, I think this gives a good visibility of what's happening or who to contact if you have any questions. There's yeah, I think that's it. We'd like to open for questions now on any of the points.
I don't see any hands raised. Does anyone have any questions for Aldo?
Maybe not a question to Aldo, but a comment on the pod failure policy, the open question. The first one, so we got a little bit of a complication. There is an issue that pod failure policy cannot match pods that have containers which completed with exit code 0. And the scenario is that the pod completes due to exceeding the active deadline seconds specified and completes with 0, but we cannot match it. And for now, we don't give it a condition. So in the pod failure policy, we only introduced one condition, the disruption target, leaving the rest for the future caps. And so we just wanted to give the mechanism. But this is an open issue, and it seems like simple, although I got with the simple implementation got sort of a question from Jordan, API reviewer, that we should. So the idea was to add a new condition to mark it like active deadline exceeded. But his idea is that we should only add active deadline exceeded if the containers are actually killed. But this is not easy to distinguish in the current design of Kubernetes, because Kubernetes just makes the decision that it wants to kill the pod, but if the pod terminates on its own with 0 exit code before killing, it won't be killed. So I think the suggestion is that we shouldn't add the condition in that case. But it's tricky and requires some refactoring. So I think to the group, I think like 2 questions, like do you have a use case for this? Because it seems to me like very much of an edge case that due to the complication, we would probably want to defer to a future dedicated cap owned by people who need it, and just don't do this when graduating pod failure policy. Because this refactoring, if needed, might be a little bit hard. So the question is, would you be okay with going for pod failure policy graduation without this, or do you have any opinions or ideas how we should proceed with this issue?
I personally, and we discussed it with Michal offline before, but my point of view is that this is an existing bug in kubelet rather than the pod failure policy. So we could proceed with the graduation of this without without fixing this issue in kubelet. And yeah, it's unclear what's the priority, because yeah, it's an edge case that can be avoided by the user. So if there is a particular use case, or somebody has a particular use case where they absolutely need an active deadline condition when they are returning exit code 0, then I hope those folks can start a new cap for 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 this feature. If anybody in the call has a particular concern, or they want to volunteer for taking this out to SIG-Node, or writing a cap in behalf of SIG-Node, yeah, I think that possibility is open as well.
I have a general question. I definitely support the approach that both of you are presenting, that if a terminated pod does not get killed, or if it's killed because it exceeded the active deadline seconds, it's fine. Doesn't mean that it will only get non-zero exit code if kubelet will have to force close it, because it will not be able, the process within the pod will not be able to terminate within the graceful shutdown. I can't remember what was the field name, but basically there's a period that kubelet will try to gracefully terminate your pod, and if it's not able to terminate, only then it will do a SIG kill against the particular pod. So non-zero exit code is only when it's a SIG kill.
So there are two possibilities here for this to happen. So one is that the pod receives the SIG term, acknowledges it, closes up whatever it needs to close, and returns 0. The problem is that even in this case, the kubelet is marking the pod as failed, even though it returned with exit code 0. The other alternative, the other scenario, is that the pod actually finishes before the kubelet has the chance to send SIG term. But at the time kubelet is doing the API updates calculations, it realizes that the deadline was missed, and it just marks the pod as failed, even though it didn't actually kill the container. So those are the two scenarios that could lead to a failed pod that has exit code 0.
Okay, so it's basically an existing issue with the kubelet. So I'll probably just move forward with the pod failure policy for jobs as is, and then only make sure that the edge case is properly documented with a link to an issue. Once we get the issue solved, it'll be done. But yeah, and I'm gonna wear my SIGAPS chair hat from this perspective, from the SIGAP point of view. I don't think there's anything we can do yet. So just making sure that this is properly documented would be a good starting point, and should not block the progression of the feature.
Sounds good. Thank you, Maciek.
Yeah, so we will need to just make the decision whether we want to proceed under pod failure policy and document this bug or issue to be fixed later by Signode, or we defer to a completely new cap. I think the first approach is simple enough to implement, so we can maybe make it as part of failure policy. Okay, makes sense. So if there are no more comments, I would like to yet discuss the new feature, the Markov limit per index, which I'm created the cap for.
Sorry, Micha, do you want to share your screen, or should I share it for you?
Maybe I can share. Oh,
okay.
But let me make it a copy. I can do that one
Exactly.
quickly, and you'll be able to share your screen. I should be able.
Okay, so I will start saying, so in this cap, we want to, there are two aspects of it. One is that we want to be able to control failures of pods per index. So we have this backoff limit currently, but it controls the number of failures globally. But we want, in use cases where the when the indexes are independent of one another, we want to be able to control the number of the failures per index. And second aspect is that we want to be able to execute all indexes, despite some of them failing. So the use case is that one of the use cases that we know about is running integration tests. So for each index, you can think of a suite of tests. And despite some of the suites failing, you still want to get results for other suites. And this is not possible or not easy with the global backoff limit. And you still want to account for some of the suites failing because of flakiness, and you want to retry them. Okay, so that's the use case that we have. And the idea is to introduce a new API field in the API that I propose. That is just Boolean to flip the meaning of the backoff limit from global to per index. And another thing that I want to add to the API is the max failed indexes. And the meaning of this field is that we still want to control so in some situations, you may not want to actually execute all of indexes. So if you observe that, let's say 50% of them fail, you want to kill the entire job early. And second of all, it's to control the size of the job, because with the new feature, when some indexes can fail, we need to mark which indexes fail. And so I propose to add to the status failed indexes field, which has the same format as succeeded indexes, which is like the textual compressed format, but it can grow to be very large if we don't control the number of failed indexes. So we also want to control to satisfy some scalability needs so that the job object doesn't grow too much. Yeah, so I think that will do as introduction. So happy if there are some questions, and I'm also looking for more reviews. So also if you want, then please go ahead and review at the cap. It didn't display for me the cap.
I've added the cap to the agenda. It's the PR 3967. I don't think anyone is interested in not necessarily throwing some comments already, but people will be interested in reading through the exact details. I see there's a lot of discussion around the API shape. I have some opinions, but I didn't think I fully understood how you were trying to address this. I want to read through the cap and make any judgments after I'll be a little bit better, after I'll understand your approach a little bit better, probably. So that's, if the PR is wrong, just let me, please fix that one in the agenda. I'm pretty sure that more people will be interested in just going through the document on their own and leaving the comments over there.
Sure. No, I think it's correct.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments that they want to share with the group? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much all for today, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.